Kills it. Bam, bam, Okay, so let me do a quick sound test to look if everything's working, kind of, at least. Okay, so let me do a quick sound test to everything's working, kind of, at least. Okay, so let's do a little. Okay, so let me do a quick sound test to everything's working, kind of, at least. Okay, so let's do a little. Okay, so let me do a quick sound test to. Oh god, I've created a loop. At least.
How to show your Twitch chat on to DBS. Keep watching play. So here studio. Once you've skipped through where you want to insert, it's going to when you're simulating Twitch alerts, but donation trackers. Okay, so if you have and it just make the text size. I'm going to show widget URL, and you simply want to go ahead and copy this URL, keep it as browser source, and click OK. And this new window is going to pop up here. Then what you need to do bigger or smaller by clicking on it and dragging the size here. See here it appears on the stream. Now that looks a bit small, so maybe if this did help, then please leave a like and a comment.
Oh Gott, was jetzt? Alter Strike-Export. So, hello, and welcome to this quick stream. I'll probably just show a few things you should maybe know about IW3D and Blender, and I can like answer questions if you have some. And I just have one monitor, so I'll have to look at the chat a few times. But I hope I can help you. So one of the first things is you can open the console. I don't really know if you can see it. Probably not, but you can open the console by clicking on Window and then toggle System Console. And one thing that helps me is if you can send me, if you get any errors or something, you can just send me this console output, and it will probably help me more than just an error message on your screen. And it also helps you, sometimes if you click away or something, error messages disappear real quickly, so you can look into the console so you can see more stuff. I've just quickly imported a clip. I don't know if it's working. Not really. The map is turned again. But I've also imported Strike here, and I'll show you some quick things about textures and so on. So one thing about Blender is you can pretty much customize your UI however you want. So for example, can you guys actually hear me? I don't really know if I tweaked my audio settings correctly. Can somebody tell me in the chat? I hope so. Otherwise it would be pretty dumb. Okay, thanks guys. So one thing I've seen multiple times. Oh, I wanted to talk about you. I think I'll do this first. So you have these little triangles in every corner of every window. You can see them, and if you click on them and drag to the right, you can open a new window, which will be by default the window you dragged from. So I've got one 3D view here, and I've just dragged another one open. And to change this, there's this button here. So these are all the different window types in Blender. It's sometimes not in the left bottom corner. Sometimes it's like if you're in the outliner, it's top left. I don't know why it is like that, but yeah, you just have to look for a button that has these two arrows and looks kind of like that. So you can come up here and select, for example, the node editor. This is like the main thing for Blender materials. I also already mentioned it a few times, but I'm using Cycles Renderer because that's like Blender Render is it just looks shit. So Cycles Renderer is an unbiased renderer which looks a lot better, but you'll need some good hardware, and you'll need some time to render frames in it. But you can do it. So after I've opened up this node editor, it's by default it's in compositing mode, and you can change that by clicking here, and it goes to material mode. So now if you select anything by right-clicking it, it will change the material here. So for example, this roof material here consists only of one texture set, so to call it. So this here is a group node. You can click on the right corner and it will open up, and you can see the 3 image texture nodes, which get output here into the group output. So there are also materials, let me quickly find one, like this. This consists out of 3 different texture sets, so to say. So this is like asphalt cracks, and also papers. And these get mixed together using these mix nodes, which are generated automatically. So this is also why you can't that easily export into any other software. We are using the principled BSDF, which is like a really nice shader. It's like a Uber shader, so you can pretty much use it for everything. Yeah. So here you can change some things up. For example, many people had problems with view models not being textured. So let me take a quick look at that. I think I'll just select the POV and show it to you. So you can press M and move things to other layers. So I will click on the second layer here, and it will move it to the second layer. So now we have a view model. It's over there. If you press 0, we can see it. Yeah, and so many people had problems that if they go into material mode, it would be just white. So this is probably because something messed up and some of the textures didn't load in correctly. And if that happens to you, probably I don't know if it generates without any nodes, but even then you can pretty quickly redo these materials. So let's just take this Desert Eagle material and delete it. And create a new one. Call it something like Desert Eagle. I don't know. And by default, there's always a diffuse shader, but we don't need that. And we can just press Shift A. This will open up this add menu, and then you can select shader and principled BSDF. I will just put it here for now. So then you can connect the BSDFs to surface, and you'll see some basic white shader. So now you'll need to add the textures. So you can press Shift A again, take a texture, image texture, and now you can either open it and choose it from your hard drive or something, or you could just click on this icon when the textures are already in the file and and now search for something like Desert Eagle, and here's the texture. So although you might have no materials, there's always a UV map imported, which you can see here. And now if I just connect the color to the base color, you will already see that I have some basic color on my deagle. So let me, yeah, you can also focus on the object by clicking the comma button on your numpad. So this looks still, I will try to render it. Don't know if it goes that well. Let me just quickly, no, yeah, put in HDR and put in rendered. So yeah, this doesn't really look like a deagle at all. It looks kind of, it's not glossy enough. It has no normals, you know. So I'll be back in 2 minutes. Just have to do something. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Hallo Luca.
Hallo. Was ist
And
Stream-Chat?
Lucky just joined me.
Oh,
Yeah.
ja, noch kurz weg.
Okay. I will probably leave the call. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like the deal looks pretty bland right now. Let me quickly decrease the clipping. Yeah. So we probably need to add some other textures. So I'll go to open, and in your models folder, if you have created a global images folder, you'll probably have it somewhere here. But I will just navigate directly to the model. So it's view model eagle. Can't find it right now. Oh, it's right here, sorry. So in the images folder, I will just select the specularity map because it seems to not have like a real normal map. It just has an identity normal map, which is basically like just one color. So I will open that though, and oh no, I've opened it like right here. So I will duplicate it by pressing Shift D, and I will select the original color here again. And now it's important then that whenever you don't use any color data, you put this to non-color data. And also, I want to use the specularity for roughness and specular. And roughness is basically negated or inverted specularity, so I will also need an invert node. And I will save quickly. I will just drag the color in here and put that into the roughness. And I'll also put that directly into the specularity. So for some people it might still look not that glossy. So you could also do things like, let me move that over quickly. Add a multiply node. Oh no, not that one. Add a math node, sorry. So math. And we turn that to multiply. And now we'll turn it to like 0.1 or even no 0.05. And one thing you can also do, which is not enabled at all by default, is if you're dealing with some kind of metal, you can obviously pull up the metal, which will make it look fucking specular as fuck. So I'll probably increase that a bit. Just a little more. Yeah. So now it looks like... It still looks pretty glossy, but maybe we can put it back to 1. Oh no, that's too much. Yeah, you know, you can tweak your materials however you want. But that looks pretty fine for me. Yeah. So, does anybody have any other questions? Just looking at chat, but no, nothing's really there. So I will just keep doing my thing. Yeah, so I think that looks pretty good for view model legal. You could also try to turn on smooth shading, but if you do, try to enable auto smooth also, because it can really fuck up some things. So for sharp objects like the deagle, I don't really recommend using it. So I'll turn it back to flat probably. Yeah, so one other thing is that is one feature we didn't really add. We had a feature where you could where the view model would be automatically disabled when you were in scope, because we mainly thought about sniper clips. But that didn't seem to work out for every other weapon, because it would just disappear in the moment somebody got into scope. So we just patched that out for the moment. So if you have any sniper and you probably want to put a scope overlay on it, you can just navigate to this properties. No, it's called outliner. This is outliner, and you will see that there are keyframes for visibility set. These are these ones, because they are yellow. They are keyframe set for every frame. So if you imagine in this moment here, he would scope in, then you would have to click on the rendered and on the viewport and disable it, and then set a keyframe, or in this case replace it. And the same goes for the view model, because you would probably also don't want any hands flying in the air. So if we go to the next one, it will be enabled again, so we'll have to do that for every frame where the player's in scope. Okay. Yeah, and another thing many people ask, if you go into the material mode, and let me quickly add a transparent BSDF. If you put if something is transparent in cycles in material mode, it won't show up correctly. It will just show up as white. You can kind of fix it by going into the materials tab under settings and putting alpha clip in here. This will kind of work, because but it looks now like it's in wireframe. I don't really know, but you won't need alpha and viewport. Just remember that it's white. So let me switch back to here. Oh, this could take a while, because he lost, or it needs to load in all the materials. Okay, some questions coming in. Yeah, I just imported the map and I found a bug. This is lucky, fuck you. This is related to BCE's question. So I've actually included an option that will automatically delete the Skybox and also the HDR portals. When you click on import a map, you can see it down here. But if you don't import the map first and have other objects in the scene, it will crash because there's a small bug in it. I will probably fix it later. And it will crash before it removes the HDR portals and the Skybox, so they won't be removed correctly in this current version. But I can also show you how to delete them. So let me make this a little bigger again. Oh, and you can navigate around pretty nicely with Shift F. Yeah, Shift F. Just Shift F. It's like free cam mode. So, for example, here are some HDR portals. You can see the name here. So we don't need them really. You can just press delete and hit left click, and they will be gone. Yeah, so basically you do that for every object you want to delete. There's also, oh, look, I have no textures here, so I could probably fix that. And is there an Acog? I could also show you how to remove an Acog right here, so let me just select that. So to delete anything from mesh, if you press tab, it will just disappear. Tab is, by the way, edit mode, so you can also change it by clicking here. This is because when it's in edit mode, it won't be affected by the underlying armature anymore, and will be reset to the middle of the scene. So I will just quickly press M again and move it to like the third layer, then switch the layers here. And I will press tab, and now you can see it here at the origin point. So I will press comma on my numpad again to hopefully focus. No, it focuses right there. So I will just quickly focus it on the origin. Yeah. So tab, and you can see it right here. So is it an Acog in there? I don't think so. I think that's normal. But if there would be an Acog in here, you would have to go in here, which is the mesh tab. And here you can see different vertex groups. So for example, if I select this one, let me quickly go out of material mode so you can see it better. So this is, the vertices look this way if they are not selected. And if you select some by pressing right click and shift, they get red. So you can always press A to select everything and to deselect it again. And I also think there's, let me quickly check something. I thought there was a settings which could track my keys somehow, but I can't seem to find it right now. Display. No, that's not it. Let me quickly look it up. And, okay, so it's an add-on. That should be no problem though. Screen. Is it in here? Keys. Cast. No. Wait. Screen. Okay, I will quickly install screencast keys so you can see better what I'm doing. Shouldn't take longer than a minute or so. So let's go to user preference. Can you actually see my user preferences window? I don't think I've specified that in OB. Oh, you can. Oh, yeah, it does that. Okay. Where did you guys download the Sky texture model shit? The Sky HDRs is called, or the plugin we use is called Pro Lighting Skies, and we are just using the demo version because it's free. Someone else already linked it in the Discord. Yeah, you just have 3 HDRs, but it's pretty nice for quick lighting. You can also go to hdrhaven.com. There are a lot more HDRs, but these ones are really nice, so definitely try it out. So I will quickly navigate to my desktop and install it. Yeah, so now we can hit start display, and if I now press A, it will show you in the corner here. So you can hopefully better understand what I'm doing. So yeah, if this would have like an Acog or something, you could just navigate to the mesh tab, select the vertex group, it's probably named something with Acog in it, and then hit select. Let me actually do it for like the weapon or something. That's just the whole weapon. So if you would have something here called Acog, it would just select the Acog, and then hit delete again and delete vertices. But I'm not gonna do that right now because I want to keep the weapon. So yeah, that's how you remove Acog and other unwanted stuff. Okay. So, what could I also show? I could show you how I personally tweak materials. Or no, I will show you the plugin UI first, because I don't know if many people have already seen this, but if you are in 3D view, which is this window, you can go to CODMAP, where you can pretty much change global settings for specularity, roughness, and normal. So I can't really show that to you because I would need to go into rendered mode and it would probably freeze my whole PC, but you can change these. It will take a while. Let me quickly do that. Yeah, you can't really drag them around, but it goes rather quickly. But it will need to change up every material, so if you're in rendered mode or so and change something here, it could take a while. And it's also just for every map object, so it does not affect anything imported from like an IW3D file or something. Yeah, but for that, there's also this IW3D tab. And if you navigate here, you can... At the moment, there are not that many cool settings, but some. So you can, for once, you can change your active velo here. So if you imported another velocity, you can select it and it will automatically change it. And you can also select a different IW3D file, but not really a different one. If you like move the blend file around or so, it might lose that path, so you can reset it. For example, if I would select another demo here, it would say demo ID doesn't match. Or if I select like something completely stupid like an image or something, it would also say that the file version is invalid. So yeah. And it would logically throw an error if you would try to import something. So another thing is that you can change some things for the models. So for example, if I go into the view model and just look at that, you can see that there are no bones or something around. So you can click on this gun models thingy here, and it will take a while, but it did not. Why? Well, it did work, but it isn't showing. Oh, yeah, it's not showing because the objects are on the first layer, so... Wait, oh... Yeah, okay. So I think the positions are fucked up by now, but you get the point. You can see the bones here. Let me quickly focus on this. Yeah, you can see the bones here, and you also see these little empties, which pretty much guide the bones. So yeah. And you can do the same for the hand model. You will see a lot more bones right here. And also for every player, there are settings. And also for the entities. Yeah. Not really using that UI that much by now, but there will be updates which bring new features. So... Nothing new in the chat. Okay, so to render this stuff out, we mainly did it on servers, so we need to export this whole blend file somehow to... And also we need to have the references to the textures and so on in it. So we used file external data automatically... No, not that one. This one. Packblend to archive, which will generate a zip archive and change all the paths in that blend file, which is in that zip archive. And it will also put all your textures in it. And then you can just take that blend file, send it to a server, that zip file, send it to a server or to someone else, and he can unpack it, and he will be able to render it just as you would. Well, mentioning that you aren't allowed to send files like this to any other people because that's like giving out your key. So it's not really allowed, but if you want to render it on a server or a render farm or something, use this option. And yeah, and we actually rendered it using the command line, but I'll not dig into that right now. Yeah, I hope that... Oh, you just want to know to render. So yeah, you can obviously do... Let me switch to a layer where there's less going on. You can obviously just turn on rendered here, which will enable viewport rendering. And I've disabled... Oh, why is the deagle not rendering? That's weird. Did I make it transparent? Oh yeah, I did. Well, let me fix that. With Blender response. It can get sometimes really unresponsive if you're in rendered mode. So yeah, let me put in that again. So now you can see it will render. And this is mostly for previewing stuff. To actually finally render it, you can either navigate here and press render, but you would mostly want to render a whole animation, so you can do this here. And you can also render a single frame by just pressing F12, which will automatically open up the image editor and start to render it. So here you go. This renders rather quickly because there are no objects in it. That's just an image. It doesn't need any time for that. So if you want to get out of this again, just press escape once, and it will get you back into the 3D view. And you can also, while it's rendering, press escape to stop the render. So if you want to get completely out of the rendered view again, just press 2 times escape, and you will be back in 3D view. Yeah, so I can also quickly talk about render settings. I could save it as a video, but I wanted to do some more nice tutorials, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's really bad, Tomsy. So now you've learned something, which is really nice. I will quickly go out over the render settings, and then I will just ask for questions, and if there are no more, I will probably end this. And if you guys liked it, I will maybe do it with some more complicated stuff the next days. I don't know. So if you go into in the main render tab, you can firstly render stuff, and what's really important is that you select GPU here, because your GPU will mostly be faster than your CPU. Like, if I render with my GPU, which is only a 760, it will render like 10 or 12 times faster than if I render with my i5. So keep that in mind. And you basically go into user preferences. I think that worked like last time. You should now see a really shit little window on the screen. Is it working? Yeah. Okay, so there you need to go under System, and it will by default be set on none, and you have to select CUDA, or if you're having a AMD GPU, OpenCL, and then select the GPU you want to render with. And then obviously hit Save User Settings and close this window again. So now you can select your GPU right here, and you're pretty much finished with this section. So let's jump into dimensions. Here you can set your output resolution. So we mostly rendered our stuff on 10920 by 810, but don't know. Just keep in mind that you should choose the smallest resolution you can pretty much support, because resolution will mean you bigger resolution will mean you need more render time. So yeah, and also put it to 100%. Yeah, nothing really more to change here. If you render an image sequence, it's not really that important how you set the FPS. That's also something to mention. So metadata is also not really that interesting. You can set some things here, like render time or something, which will then be written into the file. And yeah, under output we use PNG. You can, if you don't have that much file space, crank up the compression. It is lossless compression, so it won't change how your files look, but it will probably take a while to compress it, so keep that in mind. Also, you can change the directory it will render to here. By default, it's TMP, so it will probably be under C TMP. And and keep in mind that if you, for example, render frame 1 in here and switch to another blend file and render frame 1 again, it will override that other frame you just rendered. So yeah, just select another folder where you want to render your stuff for every blend file, and you will be fine. So freestyle settings are also something I will not go over with. It's just something like you can add some comic lines in there or something. Don't really know, never used it. The next important thing is sampling, and this is really important to not get like a static image seed. If you're rendering animations, you should always check this, which will change the noise seed in every frame, even if you don't see it, even if it just keeps being at 0, it will change it. So you won't see like static noise, which is really bad in most cases. And you can also change the samples up here. The preview samples will be used in this rendered mode, so in the viewport rendered mode. So if I change this to like 1 and go into rendered mode, it would look really noisy, as you can see here. That's like 1 sample. Yeah. And now I can like crank it up to 4 and it will get less noisy, and yeah, you get the point. So we rendered all our stuff on, I think, 512 samples, so 512. Let me enter it. It's really it really depends on what kind of scene you have. If you have like crazy volumetric smoke and stuff like that, you should probably put it up a little more. But if you just have some basic stuff, you can put it down to 128 maybe, and then put something else on it, put denoising on it, for example. That's also a feature. Don't really overuse it because it takes off a lot of detail from the scene, and it also won't work in viewport rendering, so keep that in mind. If I just quickly put this to 4 as well, and put this off first, I can render a frame. So this is how it looks without denoising. You can hopefully see, well, nah, that's actually too good. Let me crank it down a little more. So render again. So now you can really see like the noise here. I hope so. And I will change the render slot. And now I will turn on denoising and just with the default settings render again. So you can see the difference. It will take a while, but it's mostly dependent on CPU, and it won't like take double the time if you enable denoising. It will, I don't know, it's not that long. So now if I switch between the slots, I don't know if you can see it with the compression, but you can see that some noise is removed, and it's it's not even that bad. So try it out. Don't overuse it, but in some cases it's really helpful. Yeah. So we went of that, and you can also find this in the render layer tab. It's not in the render tab. Don't know why they've chosen to do it this way, but yeah. So yeah, and you can also remove noise by clamping certain values, but I won't go into that because I don't really like clamping it that much. So yeah. So geometry settings are also not that important if you're doing normal renders. For smoke, they are somehow important, but I probably will go over them in a different video or stream. The next important thing are the light path settings. So one thing to begin with are these transparency passes or transparency bounces. So these pretty much represent if you have 9 planes which are all transparent, one after each other. Let me quickly demonstrate you what I mean. So like you would have 8 different planes, like here, 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 and here, and then a ninth one. Everything behind that 9th plane will be completely black because you have set the max transparency bounces to 8. So this is especially important for trees because trees are made from like a lot of these transparent planes which are just stacked into each other. So for some of our tree renders we used really high values like 46 or even 128 sometimes. But this will also really increase your render times. So keep that in mind. And yeah, these settings, you don't normally need them. If you do something like glass, you should probably enable them. These are like, I can't really explain it. Just look them up. If you do something with glass, enable them. Otherwise, not. And yeah, some other things. I think the diffuse and glossy bounces are by default set to 8 or something, or to 4. We just set them down to 2 and 3 because it like halves the render time and it doesn't make that big of a difference. So yeah, these are our standard settings for this. There's also motion blur, but this could sometimes drastically increase the render time. So for example, we had one frame which rendered 5 minutes without anything, and in the moment we enabled motion blur, it rendered like 50 minutes, which was totally not acceptable. So we had to use some other workarounds for that. Let me quickly take a drink. Okay, so then there are also the film settings, which aren't really that interesting. And one other important thing are the performance settings. So by now in cycles, it's like if you render on GPU, you should use a pretty large tile size, which you can see here. And if you're on CPU, you should use a pretty low tile size because it will render quicker that way. So we use an add-on which is called auto tile size, which you can see here at the bottom, and you can just enable it by going into your user preferences and searching for auto tile size, yeah, and then just enable it, and this will show up. And we are both rendering on GPU, so we are using 256. You could also use 512, but sometimes your GPU will go out of memory if you have like only 2 gigs of VRAM. Yeah, and also enable calculate optimal size to take it so that it takes effect, so that it affects it. And yeah, there's also this setting called progressive refine, which can be really useful when pre-rendering stuff. So if I just go into that layer again and press F12, you will hopefully see what it does. Yeah, so it renders one sample for every tile, and then it will render the second sample. Let me increase the sample so you can see it for a little longer. Yeah, like that. So you can see it updates the whole image, and not one, and it doesn't render one tile by one, which can be useful in many situations, but mostly when pre-rendering, because it will take a lot longer this way. So if you're doing your final renders, don't use this. Definitely turn it off. Yeah, the other settings, I think I've looked them up some time ago, and I've just set them like they are right now, and didn't really change them around. Let me quickly check the chat again. Okay, so rigged, that shouldn't really happen, that character models turn into cars. That's really weird. I don't really know what I should say. Don't know what should happen there. Tom Z, no, the resolution doesn't have to be the same. It's you can crank it up completely. The images recorded from the beginning are just for the velocity, so you can render at much higher resolutions in Blender. Why did you? BCE, for yours, there's probably something like, or there should be at least, like a giant cube like that. That's the default Skybox, and when I came in here, I just deleted it. So either that's your problem, or you're maybe not in Cycles Renderer, which could also result in completely black frames. But yeah, I don't know. If you don't have pro-lighting skies, it's the same like for the materials. There's a node editor. So I can show you again how I opened this window. I just pull here and switch to node editor. And also to close it again, you just select this again, and instead of dragging to the left to open a new window, you drag to the right. So it will show this arrow, and then you can drag to the left again and select which window you want to close. So I will just close this one. And let me quickly... Oh, I've an advertisement. Wait. Whatever. So I will open this, check the node editor, and choose material again. And for the HDR, you need to change this from object to world. So here you can see like the Pro Lighting Skies node, which is generated automatically. But to get some basic lighting done, you can also connect the background shader, which is by default, and tweak it to white or something. So if I go into rendered now, yeah, you like have your basic lighting. It's not that good. I don't recommend using this setup. Just use Pro Lighting Skies or a random HDR. It will always give you better results than just one type of lighting. You should also, if you don't see anything here, it's probably because you haven't checked use nodes. That will now it won't disable it again, but if you check the use nodes the first time, these two nodes will appear. And yeah, so I will put that in again. Any other questions? Oh yeah, and I think I went through all the render settings now. There's nothing more which is that interesting. Yeah. Let me check the chat. Issue I mentioned in stream. Yeah, young BCE, that's the skybox. You just have to select this weird brown looking object and delete it. That's the default skybox. We don't really know why the skybox textures aren't working, but they aren't. And they were never working, so just select that and delete it. Like I did with the cube. Also, so some more Blender basics, you can move around by pressing middle mouse button, which you can also see here. And with numpad 1, 3, 7, you can go into these top views, and with 5, you can change it to orthographic also. So, yeah, these are some basic view things. And also, like I mentioned, you can press Shift F to move around, like in a FreeCam mode. Let me check the chat again. So Puck asked 2 questions. So yeah, we are rendering as PNG. It's just we don't render as a video directly because we can just VDub it and we have every single frame and we can re-render a single frame without having any troubles. And you also asked why there are no car models. That's probably because some models are dynamic, so like the cars that can explode, and like also some physics objects and so on. And by now we don't have our exporter tweaked so that it can export these. So they would probably be like some kind of entities, so like the dead players, but we don't have support for them right now. You could probably just take the X model from and export it with Rave and then import it again and just place it like it should be, and you should be fine. And Ghost also asked about my dark theme. It's sadly not available in this Blender version, but let me quickly look at it. No, you can't really. I think it's from Blender 270 to 277 or something. But they removed it. I don't know. I don't really know why. I can look later in it. If you PM me, I will get it to you somehow. So yeah, BCE, just go out of the default camera and move around a bit and then scroll out and you will select it. Just you can basically select with right click and with left click. Don't know, or can you? I don't. No, with left click you move the 3D cursor. So with right, you can select stuff with right click, and it will show also what you've selected here in the left corner. So it's called something with Skybox. I can probably. I don't know if I need this anymore. I will just open a new blend file and show it to you. So let me import CODMAP and go to maps. So, and just to show it to you, I will disable remove skybox and yeah, I can let that check, and I will also disable this. Okay. This could take a while, but not that long. You can also navigate into the console. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. If you're in the console, you can see like that it is actually progressing, so it's not just waiting here. And yeah, I've seen these black lines in many cases also. You can disable these by going into display and selecting relationship lines. So yeah. So for UBC it would so if you're in the camera somewhere, just press 0 on your numpad to get out of the camera and then scroll out, and you will probably see the skybox if you're in solid mode, and then just press delete and click on this delete button, and it will be gone. That's everything. That should probably fix your issue. So, any more questions? Anything I should show? Even if you came in later, I could probably show again how I retexture something or so. Yeah, I will probably save it. Yeah, okay, Park, to render the whole sequence, you pretty much select the sequence you want in the timeline, so you, like, if you want to just render the default sequence, just leave it, but if you want to render from a specific frame, just select, like, 24 and 50 here, and then press on animation here, and it will start rendering at the first frame, and then render every other frame. So you probably won't render it in one turn, so just render as many frames as you can get out, and then if you can render the next time, switch this to like 58, that was too much, 45, and then hit animation again, it will render further. So this is, for example, why we use PNG, to not have to render everything in one single turn. So did this answer your question? Okay, so I will probably end the stream right now. Don't know if I will stream later, or not later, but the next days. I will probably get a tutorial out first and then show some more advanced stuff which you can do. So yeah, thank you for your support, and thanks for watching the stream. Bye.